Hi everyone, I am Shafiqah. Today I will be presenting a cybersecurity case study that demonstrates how a single user action can compromise an entire organization's security infrastructure. So, could one click bring down a global company? While modern organizations invest a million in firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and advanced security technologies, attackers often target the weakest one, which is people. This case study focuses on the 2020 Uber cyber attack, where an attacker successfully gained unauthorized access to internal systems through a combination of social engineering, credential theft, and MFA fetish attack. The incident highlights an important cybersecurity lesson, which is even strong security controls can fail when human factors are exploited. Throughout this presentation, we will examine why the attack succeeded, how the attacker moved through Uber's environment, and the solution to prevent similar incidents. Before discussing the technical details, it is important to understand why this case is significant. First, identity has become the primary target for attackers. Instead of attacking systems directly, cybercriminals increasingly focus on stealing or abusing legitimate user credentials. Second, this incident demonstrates that multi-factor authentication or MFA is not always sufficient. Although MFA is designed to strengthen security, the attacker successfully bypassed it using an MFA fetish technique, where repeated authentication requests pressured the victim into approving access. Third, the breach exposed Uber's internal system and administrative tools. Once inside the network, the attacker was able to access resources that should have been protected from unauthorized users. Fourth, this case illustrates how a single user mistake can lead to a major security incident. The employee did not intentionally compromise the company, yet one approval request allowed the attacker to gain entry. Finally, the attack had significant business and reputational consequences. Public trust, brand reputations, and organizational credibility were all affected following the disclosure of the breach. With that understanding, let's examine exactly how the attack unfolded. To understand the breach, we need to examine the attack methodology step by step. The attack began with credential theft. The attacker obtained the login credential of an Uber employee, giving them the ability to attempt access to Uber's corporate environment. Next, the attacker launched an MFA fetish attack by repeatedly sending authentication requests to the victim. After receiving numerous notifications, the victim eventually approved one of the requests. This approval granted the attacker access to Uber's VPN, providing an entry point into the internal network. After gaining initial access, the attacker discovered administrative credentials that were improperly stored within internal resources. Using this credential, the attacker performed privilege escalation and obtained higher level permissions. With elevated privilege, the attacker moved laterally across the environment, accessing additional systems and services, including communication platform and internet administrative tools. The attacker then gained access to multiple internal systems, significantly expanding their visibility into Uber's infrastructure. Finally, sensitive internal information was exposed, including screenshots and detail of internal resources, demonstrating the full impact of compromise. This attack change clearly shows how a relatively simple social engineering technique can evolve into a large-scale organizational breach when identity controls, credential management, and user awareness are insufficient.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Nazhan bin Abdul Malik. Now I will explain about critical analysis of attack success. The attack was not caused by a single security weakness. Instead, it succeeded because of a combination of human, technical, and organizational factors. First, there was a human weakness. The attacker used an MFA fatigue attack by repeatedly sending authentication requests to an employee. Eventually, the employee approved one of their requests, allowing the attacker to gain access to the system. This shows how social engineering can be effective when users are not fully aware of modern attack techniques. Second, there were technical weaknesses within Uber's environment. The attacker discovered administrative credentials that were stored in internal PowerShell scripts. These exposed credentials made it much easier to gain higher privilege and access more sensitive systems. Finally, there were organizational weaknesses. Uber had not fully implemented a zero-trust architecture and internal access controls were not strict enough. Once the attacker entered the network, there were limited restrictions preventing movement between systems. Overall, the attack was successful because multiple security weaknesses existed at the same time. This incident highlights the importance of combining strong technology, effective security policies, and employee awareness to defend against modern cyber threats. Now I will explain about vulnerability assessment. The first vulnerability was weak push-based multi-factor authentication or MFA. This method depends on users approving login requests, which makes it vulnerable to MFA fatigue attacks. In this case, the attacker took advantage of human behavior to bypass authentication. The second vulnerability was exposed administrative credentials. Sensitive credentials were stored in internal PowerShell scripts, creating an opportunity for attackers to gain privileged access after entering the system. The third vulnerability was the lack of the network segmentation. Because the systems were not properly separated, the attacker was able to move across different parts of the network and access additional resources. Another important issue was excessive user privilege. Some accounts had broader access than necessary, increasing the potential damage once an account was compromised. Finally, security monitoring was not effective enough to detect suspicious activities quickly. Repeated MFA requests and unusual login behavior were not identified in time, allowing the attacker to remain active within the environment. These vulnerabilities demonstrate how small weaknesses can combine to create a significant security risk for an organization.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I am NURUL and NADHIRAH. I will explain security architecture and solution design covering two parts, organizational context and proposed security architecture. Uber is a digital mobility as a service platform, meaning it connects riders and drivers through an online system. Besides ride-hailing, it also offers services like Uber Eats for food delivery and freight logistics. The company runs on a cloud-native infrastructure which allows it to operate globally and handle large-scale, real-time data. Uber also has a mixed workforce, including full-time employees, contractors, and third-party vendors. Because of this complex structure, strong cybersecurity and access controls are necessary to protect user data and ensure the system stays secure and reliable. Uber handles a large amount of sensitive data in cloud environment every second. This includes personally identifiable information such as names, contact details, and location history of riders and drivers. It also processes financial data like payment details, banking information, and driver payouts, as well as operational data such as algorithms, source codes, and system configurations. In addition, there is security-related data like access credentials and permission records, plus compliance data including audit logs and legal documents. Because of all these sensitive data types, Uber must comply with regulations like GDPR and PDPA to protect user privacy, improve security, and maintain trust in its services. Based on Uber's operational structure, several security risks can be identified. First is credential compromise, where attackers can gain access through phishing, social engineering, or even bypassing MFA, as seen in the Uber incident. Next is lateral movement, where weak network segmentation allows attackers to move from one system to another after gaining initial access. There is also insider threat risk, especially when contractors or vendors have accesses beyond what they need. Supply chain attacks are another concern, since Uber depends on third-party services which may become weak points. In addition, weak security monitoring can delay detection of abnormal activities like unusual login patterns. Finally, the impact of this risk can be severe, including operational disruption, financial loss, reputational damage, and legal penalties under GDPR, which can reach up to 20 million euros or 4% of global revenue. This section maps security technologies to address Uber's weakness. First, IAM combined with FIDO to improve authentication by replacing weak push-based MFA with phishing-resistant passkeys. It also enforces role-based access control and least privilege, requiring physical device interaction to prevent unauthorized login. Next, ZTNA and network segmentation remove implicit trust inside the network. This ensures systems are divided into secure segments, so even if one account is compromised, attackers cannot move laterally across services. For credential security, PAM and secret vaults prevent hard-coded credentials by providing just-in-time access, automatic key rotation, and full audit tracking. SIM and UEBA are used for monitoring and detection. They analyze logs and user behavior in real time to detect anomalies like repeated MFA requests or unusual login activity. Finally, EDR provides endpoint detection by continuously monitoring devices, blocking malicious execution, and isolating compromised systems immediately.
So for the security control implementation, several security controls are proposed to strengthen cybersecurity. Multi-factor authentication or MFA adds an extra verification layer beyond passwords and helps prevent unauthorized access even if credentials are stolen. Second is privilege control, privilege access management or PAM. It controls and monitors administrator accounts while reducing the risk of privilege abuse and unauthorized access. The third is network segmentation, separates critical system from general user networks and limits lateral movement during cyber attacks. And next is endpoint detection and response or EDR. It monitors device for suspicious activities and enables rapid threat detection and response. Security awareness training educates employees on phishing and social engineering attacks while reducing human-related security risks. And the last one is continuous monitoring and incident response. Use SIEM for real-time threat monitoring and ensure faster detection, containment, and recovery from incidents. This slide presents the cost-benefit evaluation of the proposed security controls. The implementation costs are categorized into 4 levels. High-cost solutions include privileged access management and security information and event management. Endpoint detection and response falls under the medium-high category. Multi-factor authentication and network segmentation are categorized as medium-cost solutions, while security awareness training has a low-medium implementation cost. For the key benefits include reducing unauthorized access and data breaches, improving threat detection and response, protecting sensitive organizational data, enhancing customer trust and compliance, and supporting business continuity. for the long-term value includes lowering future recovery costs, strengthening organizational reputation, improving cybersecurity readiness, increasing competitive advantage, and ensuring sustainable business operation.
Hi, my name is SAHIRA and I'm going to present my part, which is impact of organizational operation. On this slide, we can see the impact of the proposed security architecture on organizational operations. So first, in terms of improved security and risk reduction, the implementation of Zero Trust Architecture, FIDO2, PAM, EDR, and SIEM has reduced the risk of MFA fatigue attacks, credential theft, privilege escalation, and lateral movement attacks. In addition, continuous verification ensures that every user and device is authenticated before gaining access to organizational resources. Next, for enhanced monitoring and incident response, SIEM and UEBA provide real-time visibility into network activities. This allows security teams to detect threats faster and respond to accidents more effectively, reducing the overall impact of cyber attacks. For employees and contractors, the adoption of FIDO2 passkey strengthens access security and provides better protection against phishing attacks. However, users will need time to adapt to the new security procedures and undergo proper training. Next, this slide focuses on the long-term impact on the organization. From the perspective of business continuity and customer trust, the proposed security measure help reduce the risk of future cyber attacks, protect customer data, and ensure smoother business operation. As a result, customers will have greater confidence in the organization, while the company can better meet regulatory and compliance requirements. At the same time, there will be increased administrative responsibilities. Administrators must continuously manage identity and access privilege, monitor security activity, and enforce governance policies. Although this requires additional effort, it improves accountability, transparency, and compliance across the organization. Next, despite the benefits, there are several challenges associated with implementing the proposed architecture. The first challenge is the high cost of implementation. The organization must invest in technologies such as FIDO2, PAM, SIEM, EDR, and Zero Trust Architecture. Additional costs are also required for employee training, system maintenance, and ongoing support. The second challenge is integration with existing infrastructure. The new security solution must be tested for compatibility with current system, especially in a complex cloud-native environment. Poorly planned migration process may also cause temporary operational disruption. Another challenge is user adoption and organizational change. Employees may need time to become familiar with the new security procedure, and some users may initially resist the change. Next, there is a shortage of skilled personnel. Managing advanced cybersecurity solution requires experienced professionals, but recruiting and retaining cybersecurity experts can be both difficult and costly. Next challenge is continuous monitoring and maintenance. Security tools require regular updates, configuration reviews, and continuous monitoring to remain effective against evolving cyber threats. Next challenge is balancing security and productivity. If security controls are too strict, they may reduce user convenience and affect productivity. On the other hand, weak security controls can expose the organization to greater cyber risk. Therefore, a balance must be maintained between security and operational efficiency. The final challenge is third-party and contractor risk. The 2022 cyber attacks originate from a contractor account, demonstrating the risk associated with external partners. As a result, organizations must enforce consistent security standards for contractors and continuously monitor third-party access.
In conclusion, the Uber cyber attack of 2022 serves as an important example of how modern cyber attacks often exploit both human and technical weaknesses. Our analysis showed that the attack was enabled by several factors, including MFA fatigue, exposed credentials, weak access controls, and insufficient network segmentation. To address these issues, We propose a security architecture that includes zero trust architecture, P2 authentication, privilege access management, SIEM with UEBA, and endpoint detection and response. These technologies work together to strengthen authentication, improve visibility into network activities, prevent unauthorized access, and reduce the risk of future attacks. By implementing these solutions, organizations can better protect sensitive data, improve their overall cybersecurity posture, maintain customer trust, and ensure long-term business continuity. Thank you.